podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, I'm your host, Les Bubka. Welcome to Anxious Black Belt, a podcast that focuses on karate, mental health, and everything in between. If you enjoy our content and would like to support us, best way to do that is to listen to another episode, share with your friends, and leave us a review. All this stuff helps the mysterious algorithm to introduce our podcast to new audience. Thank you for joining me, and let's listen to the episode. Hello, sir. Welcome to the show. I've been following a martial way for some time. I love your articles and your podcast and your documentaries, and happy to have you.
Thank you
How are
so
you?
much. I'm very well. Thanks for having me on. Is my volume okay?
Yeah, volume is fine. I can hear you perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's been a while for myself, so I appreciate having me on. I haven't been active doing anything now for some time, so I appreciate that people even still remember my articles and podcast. It means a lot. But yeah, hoping to get something going. We'll talk about that as we get in. But yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
It is interesting how quickly people fade when they stop being active on the social media. I've got few friends. I don't know if
Yeah.
you're aware of Ken Knight. He's
Yep.
got an interesting channel. Yeah, he went for a year and fading away. Very short memory these days.
Yeah, it is. Everything's a short memory. It's crazy. Everything goes by so fast. Um, I think it's just a reflection, I think, of the environment and everything we're in these days. Yeah, when I started, well, so yeah, back up a bit. I guess when I did the blog and the articles, that was more just my own journaling, just online, just a way for me to like put my thoughts down. And because I've always been a writer, always loved writing my whole life. And honestly, you want to actually, you want to, I'll tell you a little funny anecdote, little story about
Mhm.
online, how online works is so funny. So when I started doing the martial way, just started as this regular blog that honestly was just a journal. I remember asking Sensei at the time, is it okay if I just, make a chronicle journal of my training and stuff? And he was fine. And but I was really into the internet and where things were going at that time. God, this is dating now, over 10 years ago. Um, and I was like, man, it'd be so cool to do something online to actually find some sort of either job or something, some sort of revenue. And so I tried different things, and I was like sinking. I even like financially put some income into some things. Nothing. Like I couldn't get anybody to like read anything, look at anything.
Mm.
But my blog that I never put a penny, not a penny into, it was just a free blog, took off, and it was so hilarious. I found it so funny, and it was a good lesson in life. Like the things you do that you are passionate about
Mm.
and do come from like a very honest place. I find definitely for whatever reason resonates more with people. I don't know if they pick up the authenticity of it or not. I'm not sure what that is, but it got up to a lot of readers, and yeah, it was pretty fascinating just to watch. I mean, it took some time, but it resonated with people, and I would get a lot of feedback from it for sure.
Yeah. I remember reading it and really, I like your writing style and as well the honest conversation that you had on your several podcasts and having that you are in a kind of center of Kyokushin
Mm.
when you've got the access to really high quality teachers and competitors and stuff, so it's always interesting to listen to that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and again, even the podcast itself that became just another um, just a natural progression from it. I was kind of said what I wanted to say or put down my thoughts, if you will, into the blog. And then and I was getting to know some folks in that community. And I was just out of general curiosity. I was just like, I would love to pick the brains of some of these folks. And I was
Mm.
surprised that not many people had done it at that time. I mean, podcasting wasn't too big. It was growing, but not at the size it is now. And yeah, it was just wonderful just to have these conversations. And one of the things I wanted to do, even with that, again, going back to the authenticity of it, one of the things that kind of turned me away from a lot of polished things where it was things were so rehearsed and prepared
Mm.
and whatnot. So even when I did those conversations with folks and they would ask me, like, is there anything, do you have a question list or anything like that? I'm like, nope. I want us to pretend we're just out having a beer,
Mm.
just met at a pub, and we're just shooting S, if you know what I mean. And yeah, that's how it was.
Yeah, I try to do the same. A, because I'm not a very organized person. B, I'm really forgetful, so I'm forgetting what I wanted to ask. I mixed it
Yeah,
up because first 100 episode is really stressful. So I'm starting to easing off now and actually having nice to have a feedback from people. Oh, you sound more relaxed. It's getting
yeah,
better. So you've got that feedback. So, but starting with your martial journey, you, if I remember properly, you are a Kempo black belt as well. Then you moved to Kyokushin, and then
yeah,
now you're doing BJJ.
yeah, and a few other things. I've been in martial arts. I was thinking about the other day. I'm 54 now. I read at a 55-year-old level.
Mm.
Joke. Um, but I'm 54. I started martial arts when I was about 12. And it started with like pretty much every other Canadian kid around here, Taekwondo, because there it is everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, that being said, Taekwondo back then, I was just talking to somebody the other day about this, was a very different animal than it is today. I remember the school I went to was this, I'll never forget it. His name was uh, Kwang Kim Sabonim. So Sabonim is
Okay.
basically sensei, right, in Korean. And Kwang Kim was his name. And this guy, former military, did ITF Taekwondo. And it's funny, I had no reference then, right? I was just a kid that
Mm.
just went into a Taekwondo class because I saw some movies and stuff. But now, with some history behind me, and looking back, it was super close to Kyokushin. It was he just pretty much did full contact sparring, leg kicks. Like it was very very similar. And of course, then I learned as I got older how things changed, and it became, they got into the Olympics and became the WTF World Taekwondo Federation, and all the points and all that kind of stuff changed everything. So what you see today, the Taekwondo that I see, like that Olympic style, literally look night and day, like nothing.
Mm.
But that was my first exposure. I was there for a year or so, and then I was with a single mom, and we moved, and the next area I moved, there wasn't a lot around, but there was a young man in the area who was training Muay Thai and Jeet Kune Do and some Filipino martial arts and stuff. So I would mess around with him quite a bit in his garage, and kind of was a training dummy to him. But picked up a lot. And then this gentleman came in, and this would have been in the Maritimes where I lived. And this gentleman came and opened up a Kempo school. And this was right around the timing was perfect because it was right around, I think, if memory serves me, right around when The Perfect Weapon came out with Jeff Speakman. So I was pretty mesmerized because Kempo kind of looked like in life what it looked like on the screen, that really flashy, like 21 strikes in a second kind of thing. And it really appealed to me as a young guy. And yeah, I just went berserko for it, and was training nonstop. I was in there every day. I had keys to the place, and I would train all the time. And yeah, that was, I guess, the base thing I did,
Mm.
and ultimately got my black belt in that. And that school also had a. Sorry if I'm rambling on a bit. It's been a while since I did a podcast, so
Oh,
interrupt
that's
me.
great. That's great. Great.
Yeah, that he introduced me in a not great way. No slight to him. Um, that teacher, David Harrison, great guy. He also did shoot fighting, and this was right. So we're talking early '90s, and
Mm.
so this would have been the time. Like, this is before UFC. Shoot fighting was just a thing in Japan. No one knew what it was here. And so he was introducing it. I remember he was even trying to do tournaments, and it was like they didn't know what to do with it. It was illegal. But any event, he was starting to teach it on the side at our Kempo school, and I was kind of intimidated by it, but I tried it. And one, I'll never forget, one Saturday, I was doing some sparring with somebody, this big kid, and it was very similar to what you see today, MMA, basically with open palm heel strikes. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, it was very very similar to like MMA rules today, except no closed fist strikes. It was palm heels, and if anybody knows Boss Rutan,
Mm.
don't let the open hand thing fool you. It's pretty rough. Anyway, this needless to say, this kid got me. So I tapped out this kid, and I should have known. I went to help him up off the mats, and he swiped my hand away, and immediately my brain was like, "Oh, this is not good." And we had enough time to keep going, and the instructor there, not it wasn't David, somebody else was like, "Keep going." So this kid proceeded to get me around the waist from behind and essentially suplex me over him,
Mm.
a wrestling suplex. And I came down on my upper back, my upper thoracic. I was knocked out. Um, and it was horrible. It was really awful. And it was like it was traumatic to me. It's like I never wanted to go back to grappling again. It was awful. I just stuck with Kempo. And what's funny is you're young and you heal and stuff so quickly. What I didn't know, and learned later from other injuries that I had when they're doing MRIs, they were like, "Hey, when did you fracture your thoracic spine?" I'm like, "What?
Mm.
What are you talking about?" Turns out, when he did that to me, it actually ended up a fracture a bone in my thoracic spine, but I didn't know. I was just in pain, and it just kind of got better, and that was
Mm.
it. But that was my exposure to grappling, my first time. But yeah, that was my base. So Kempo, I would say, was definitely my base, and I loved it. I still love it to this day. I still look at videos and play around with it.
Yeah, I had an introduction to Kempo through Master Ken. We done
Oh yeah, yes,
seminar with Master Ken. But
yes,
funny thing is that he was saying that he was so tired of being in a character all the time. And we asked him, thanks to Christian Vedevard who organized that, and Ian was there as well, Abernathy.
yeah.
Um,
Oh
uh,
wow,
uh,
Ian's
uh,
amazing.
yeah, and we asked him can you do just your normal mat training, not Master Ken, but mat. And it was actually really interesting. I kind of I've got friends from different versions of Kempo, so the million strikes in a second
Yeah.
is kind of the flow is known to me, but people were really mesmerized by it. And by the way, Matt is a very good teacher. It was
Mm.
very enjoyable sessions with him. So yeah.
I love Kempo. I really do, and it's funny because I kind of fell out of love with it along the journey. It's kind of one of the reasons I ended up in Kyokushin because so I moved. I was in a small town, whatever, and I moved to the big city, Toronto, and there was no camper around, and I had toyed with what to do. I had even tried like a shitoru
Hmm.
school. Um, I had tried some, and I dabbled in other things too. I did. I used to go. I studied Chen Tai Chi Chuan, and some other systems. Dabbled even Hungar, Kung Fu and stuff, but nothing really stuck to me like I was looking for. I was like, I love Kempo, but I've never been hit nor really hit someone.
Hmm.
And I always thought back to the videos as a kid, seeing the old black and white. Um, uh, oh gosh, my memory. The Fighting Black Kings.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The yeah, that documentary on the first world tournament and the training of the Kyokushin and stuff. I was like, that's what I need to find. And I did find a school. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, so I kind of left it alone. I left it alone. I'll just leave that at there. And then this other gentleman, and then I moved again into a different part. Now, by now, I'm in a huge city, and I moved to a different section of the city in Toronto. If anybody's familiar, like I think we're about 8 million people now. It's a big city. So I moved to the other side, and luckily, I found out there was a gentleman there who later became my teacher, Sensei Steve Ogarashi, now Shihan. And I went to his school, and I was like, aha, this is Gyokushin. So that really appealed to me. So that I was like, that really nice, cool mix. Now I understand, like, getting over the fear of hitting. It was actually, I had more of a fear of hitting people than being hit.
Mm.
Weird thing. Um, but it was such an eye-opening experience. Anyway, Phil, I'm like, actually, there was a lot of useful things in Kempo. We probably just, well, we weren't learning it correctly, or practicing it correctly, maybe, for lack of a better word. I think if we were taking Kempo and pressure testing it in live scenario environments, rather than just having just a compliant partner standing there while you go off on them, I think there's a lot of value there. I really do. To this day, I think it's I love it. I really love Kempo.
I like what Jeff Spickman done with the Kempo 5.0, adding
Yeah,
the BJJ
grappling and
and
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
Ed Parker, I think, wanted, right?
Oh, I
Evolution
think
of it.
100% Ed Parker would have done that. Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. 'Cause that was he was such an evolutionary martial artist. I mean, taking what he had learned in Hawaii and stuff, and the way he
mm,
transformed it, and yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
mm. And how do you finding now going to BJJ in, let's say, not so young, because I'm doing BJJs as well, and I'm after 40 as well, and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, so a couple things on that. So I definitely relate with, especially, I have so many injuries and stuff, and now with, yeah, one thing that's so funny, the gentle art. It I'm sore constantly. I am sore constantly. There's always something hurting, something injured. It's constantly. So I find it hilarious when people talk about the gentle art of jujitsu, because it's anything but. Um, I wish I had done it when I was younger, when I was more made of rubber,
Mm,
able to bounce back. But yeah, that part's rough. That's actually the roughest part. However, it has changed my entire. Sorry, my dog's in the background. It has changed my entire perspective on martial arts and
mm,
karate specifically. Um, dramatically. And it's funny, like, when I was doing my show with Shion Terry Burkett, and Terry would always say this to me, man, when you start doing grappling more seriously, it's going to change the way.
mm,
And I yeah, maybe he was 1,000% correct. Like, it really opened my eyes and changed things dramatically, and mostly around, obviously, the application bunkai aspect of
mm.
it. And yeah, that's a rabbit hole. I could talk for about an hour just on that alone. It's really, if my body holds together, I really want to go back into my karate a lot more in the coming year, and do more of that and training, like I've seen you do as well. And like Andy Allen, are you familiar with Andy Allen?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's Andy's fault that I'm here doing podcast, because we've been doing interview and I cocked it up, and I had only
ah,
half of a screen, so I thought, what to do with it? Okay, let's do podcast. So Andy, it's your fault.
I love what he's doing, and he's in my former old town where I learned Kempo, actually,
Mm,
coincidentally. Um, love that. So he's probably my favorite,
mm,
that I see out there doing that kind of thing, and that's where I would like to see myself blended. Because even when I look at here, I'll make tons of enemies now. Uh, Kyokushin, it's a sport now. It's a sport.
yeah,
It's a
yeah, yeah.
sport, no different than Taekwondo has become a sport. It's completely watered down, and even more so now. Like, the most of the Kyokushin dojos I see are just like, they don't even train that hard, because they're too worried that, they're going to go too rough, and the kids are going to complain to the parents, and the parents are going to do something, and blah 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 blah. It's comical. It's quite comical, because, funnily enough, because I think if they actually trained old school, that there's lots of parents that would like that these days.
Mm,
um that being said, the style itself, it has become, I mean, I'm sure I mean, what Kyokushin's like, but for viewers, or listeners, like, it's it's a sport. I don't know what else to say. It has a very set sort of rules, and I understand all the Kyokushin folks that say yes, but even though it doesn't have face punching or it doesn't have this, well, we still train at the dojo. But come on, do you really?
Mm.
You don't. You go through the kata, and I have yet to meet anybody in Kyokushin could break down a kata for me. Um, and that's not true. Actually, I've talked
I,
to a
th-
couple like
I think Shihan
Shihan Cameron.
Cameron. Yeah,
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 Shihan
yeah.
Cameron.
But
Uh,
I think it is because he did wrestling and BJJ.
Jiu-jitsu. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, yeah. And I had the exactly
100%.
say I like exactly same story with myself. It's funny when I'm watching what Shihan Cameron posts, and I'm thinking that's wrestling. Because in 2000, when I walked into the wrestling dojo, we had our dojo shared with the wrestlers,
Yeah.
and the coach they were like, "Why are you doing this weird movements? I'm blocking the strikes. Why don't you just grab him and do the arm drag or something like that or throw?"
Right.
Okay, yeah, and since then it's all changed. But like Terry said, and you said that if you step into the grappling world, your karate changes completely.
It so does. I mean, and I had a pretty good understanding. Like I was an avid historian. I really was of martial arts. I went deep, deep, um, to the point where, I mean, when I was looking at Okinawa and karate and stuff, I mean, it was even the terminology they were using, like what we call block, they don't even call it block, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's receiving, and
Mm-hmm.
even the training was very, very different. But even that has become watered down now as well, in Okinawa. And then of course, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but we're in the history, but then of course when it went to Japan and the mainland Japan, and they already had grappling arts and they didn't need that, so all they needed
Mm.
was punching and kicking. So that's all they took. Um, but I mean, if you have any grappling background, um, wrestling, of course, not just, yeah, I shouldn't say just. And when I say grappling, I hope people understand. I don't mean like on the floor grappling. I mean like stand up wrestling to the ground grappling. You will start seeing immediately, oh shoot, that's not a
Mm.
block. Wait a second. So many moves that we do. I can't do it on here, but so many moves that we do on there. It's like it's so obvious. It's now
Mm.
so completely obvious that this has nothing to do with a block or whatever. It's, these are definitely grappling, to the point where I would say, karate and kata specifically, depending on which, nahate or shurite, whatever the case may be, it's, I would say, the high majority percentage of those moves are grappling. I think it's very limited to actual, the striking and kicking portions of it.
Yeah,
So yeah.
when I look on a kata, I see a grappling with the addition of striking.
Mm-hmm.
Set up the position when you can strike efficiently and you whack them.
100%. Yes, exactly. Perfectly said. Perfectly said. And I know it's funny, again, going back to the Kempo thing. um Now that I look back at even at Kempo and stuff, like, yeah, it was more because it was more like, that grappling aspect of like, of stand up. Um, yeah, it's been a very, very eye opening experience. And I know, again, that it will probably tick off like Kyokushin folks and stuff, but I don't mean it to. I really don't, because like I would love to break down and analyze those kata, and train. My vision, I would love to see, karate or Kyokushin trained and tough as hard as they do for the sport aspect of it,
Mm.
but for real life application, in scenario. I think that would be, pardon my French, badass. I think it'd be really
Mm.
cool.
I think if you add kata and the bunkai kata to kudo, that would be a very close
Yes,
combination to what it used to be.
exactly. Because you're right, because they essentially removed the kata out
Mm.
of Kyokushin, and then added in the judo stuff. I will say also another thing that Kempo really opened my eyes to, and and when I started reading the history of Okinawan karate, um, and through so many, better historians than myself, I started realizing something, that kata, I think, again, I'll tick off people. I think there's way too much emphasis put on kata. I, 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 for me personally, I see kata as just an afterthought. So when I was in Kempo, we were taught an application. We were taught a two-person application. Person A is doing this, person B reacts in this way. A two-person set, and then we would try to train it. I wish there was more resistance, but whatever. That being said, that's the way it was. The kata was taught afterwards as just a way to remember those moves. So when you don't have another person to train with, you can go practice on your own. And so when I started reading about, the books I could get my hands on that were translated, and ones that weren't, like, anyway, it sounded like the same thing they were doing in Okinawa. They were being taught, practical applications of martial arts and self-defense, and then is given, a pattern to kind of remember and go practice on your own. Even today, I mean, if I look at like Okinawans who practice kata compared to mainland or sport karate guys, they're completely different. They're so fixated on the aesthetics of it, and that's fine if you're into that. There's a place for everything. But as a combat application, I don't think it really matters. I mean, I think the movement is the most important thing, and how you're drilling that. So if you're not drilling with a resistant partner, what are you doing?
That's what I get a lot of criticism in my kata, because they are not aesthetically pleasing, but I kind of know what I'm doing. So, and in my school, when I
Right.
teaching, I only teach adults. We're starting with application and
Oh,
then
awesome.
learning kata. So
Oh,
I'm
you just touched
totally,
on something else. I love that. So you only teach adults?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's
I don't,
awesome. So I'm
I,
I'm so happy to hear this. This isn't so even in I see here in my neighborhood. This is a pet peeve of mine because I have 3 dogs, so I'm often
mm,
walking my dogs, and I live close to a large karate school that does Shotokan,
mm,
and it's a pretty large chain around here. I won't say who it is. People could guess if they know where I live, and I see these kids walking to class with their brown and black belts on.
mm.
And I'm just like, it's like
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with kids training. I love kids training and stuff, but I would, even if they were training, I would reserve those belts as something
mm.
very, very special. And
So
yeah.
when we've been teaching in back in Poland with my teacher, so the junior belts wouldn't be able to
Oh, is
go
that where you're
above.
from, Poland?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, just so much. I thought it was a different part of Europe. Okay, sorry. Go on. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So my teacher wouldn't grade anybody under 16 above the green belt, fifth Q,
beautiful, beautiful. I
because
love your teacher.
the karate for me as well. That's why I don't teach joint classes, because training for children is totally different to adults. You if you have both people, you don't deliver neither.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Well said. Perfectly
I
said.
have to correct it. I do teach children, my son and his friend, and we're doing mostly wrestling and stuff like that. And he just actually started a couple of weeks ago BJJ as well. So
Oh, right on, right on. That's awesome.
so so yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I love that you said that because yeah, I because I never know how what people's styles are and stuff and what they do, and yeah, I think and Terry Burke used to say something, and I'm gonna mess up and I don't want to misquote him, but he said, he had this thing, make karate dangerous again,
mm,
or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, and we used to talk, but then he used to really push me on this, like when I was a kid, man, when you saw karate, like in those old shows, even like
mm.
when I was talking about Fighting Black Kings, or there was another one that was a huge inspiration to me, Way of the
Well,
Warrior, I believe it was called.
yeah.
And you see these guys, like it was, again, pardon my French, badass. Like karate looked rough and tough. And you look at those guys from back then and the training, what they did, and like and I think there's something to that, because when you think about karate these days, like the average person, not someone who's more involved, it just doesn't have the respect
Mm,
that it used to garner back in those days. Hence why I like folks like Andy Allen, and that genre of style of trying to do it again and bring that aspect back. it looks like when I see, and I should have checked out more of your videos, see if you're close, because I didn't realize how much you were with Andy. Like when I see Andy's videos, to me that's martial arts, that's karate. That he's covering all aspects. He's covering really great what if scenarios. What if someone does this to you? Like how you're gonna, and if it does go to ground, you know how to take care of yourself and get back up. And I love it. And all of that is in the content. All of it's there.
Yeah.
It's just not trained, and it's such a shame.
Yeah, this is a problem for me because I'm teaching only adults, and if you speak to people, or what you do, karate,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's kids only. Well, no, we don't do
See?
kids. And I stole them from a Budokai Kyokushin, Joe Blooming, the
Oh,
all around karate,
yeah.
the name. So yeah, so my style, my teacher left the Kyokushin before it was popular, so 1986, and
Gotcha.
we are more kind of Ashihara style with
Oh, beautiful.
sweeps and sabaki. Everything is sabaki.
Beautiful.
Um, but with my own addition of wrestling and now BJJ and whatever I could, boxing and whatever I could train. But even actually yesterday we had the opening of our new dojo. We've got a fully matted
I saw.
full-time dojo. And
Congratulations.
one of the women there, she used to train with us, come back and she said, "Yeah, I need to speak to my son because he wants to do more grappling and stuff like that. But when he hears karate, he doesn't want to come." So I said, "Just tell him it's grappling with punching."
Yes, exactly. Grappling with punching. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah, but we'll see. We're very fortunate that the where I train, but BJJ, they've got the so downstairs is a fully Muay Thai gym.
Yep.
Upstairs is BJJ, and they took me in and
Oh,
allow
that's
me to
awesome.
use it. So
That
we've got really good venue now.
perfect mix too. Yeah,
Yeah.
the BJJ. Actually, here's another thing for other people. I'll tick off more people. I don't even call it Brazilian Jiu Jitsu anymore. I just call it Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah.
I think that's yeah. I won't go too much down there. Other than that, yeah, it's Jiu Jitsu. I'll just leave it there. Uh, but yeah, and I started when I first started jiu-jitsu, sustained I started getting injuries really bad, but not from the jiu-jitsu. It was from actually from years and years of martial arts, and just I have really bad disc degenerative disease.
Mm. So I was
uh
gonna ask you, I step here, sorry,
yeah, no,
because
please.
my leading question to that was, do you think that being suplex on your back and injuring the thoracic spine had an impact on your neck and the degenerative
N- n-
process,
n-
or is it just not
n-
related?
it's not related, but it definitely had an impact. I think it had a psychological impact for sure that definitely carried with me throughout my life. um the mine later in after my formative years in schooling and stuff, I went back to school and I actually studied quite a bit of neuroscience. And the brain is a very complicated thing, as we know. And a lot of these things can leave quite the indelible marks that leave residual effects for sure. Um, so I won't say it physically did that, but it definitely impacted my mind in enough that I think it did trigger other issues within my spine. No, disc degenerative runs in my family. So all my siblings, I'm the youngest of seven, and Irish Catholic family. The but the so they all have it. Mine was the worst, and I think because I was the most physically active.
Mhm.
I've been going since I was a kid. I've been in a gym for decades, and it just wore down. So I mean, even when I was really young, I was at 28. I had uh, I started getting sciatic pain down my leg and stuff, and I did something which I totally regret. I don't have many regrets in my life, but that's probably one of the only ones. I listened to a doctor and decided to do something called a partial discectomy, where they went in and they removed just a part of the disc to free up the space.
Mhm.
Um, and when they did that, they quote unquote accidentally dropped disc fragments down to the spinal canal. So they had to go back in a month later to irrigate it and clean it out. And when they did, they accidentally scraped the S1 nerve root. So I have permanent nerve damage down my right leg from the surgery. no reflex in my right Achilles at all since I was 28 years old because of that. And it's something that I think I did not require surgery for. But it is what it is. However, my back did hold up all the way through. Not a lot of issues until just around, I think it was around before COVID started. I have COVID brain now. I can't remember years anymore. So I don't know when did COVID start.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
5 years ago, 6 years ago,
yeah.
whatever it was. So about a year before that, I started having. Actually, I didn't even notice what I didn't put two and two together. It was my partner. She started noticing I was dropping cups and stuff, and I thought I was just being clumsy.
Uh-huh.
But then as we got to nose, I was starting to notice that my right hand was getting numbness, and I wasn't being able to touch the cups properly or mechanically. And then I got to a point where I couldn't even twist my hand to rotate it without dropping a cup out of it. Um, and then it started progressing from there. Like, and it went pretty quick. Like I started losing the use of muscles in my arm, so I lost the use of two muscles in my arm. And I went to atrophy. So I went to see specialists, and it was the disc degeneration. The disc had degenerated in my neck, and it was basically compressing on these nerves. The facets and the bones were compressing on the nerves and cutting the blood off and circulation. So here in Canada, I went to see. I got put in to see the top cervical surgeon, orthopedic surgeon in Canada. He's the only one who did artificial disc replacements, and mine was so bad I was going to be the only Canadian with a double disc uh, uh, artificial disc replacement. And they would cut open your neck, go through the front, removing the windpipe, and it was incredibly invasive. And I said no. And at that time, I remember like watching Joe Rogan Experience and him talking so much about stem cells.
Yeah.
And this place called CPI, Cellular Performance Institute. And so I started researching stem cells in some places. Looked at a few places, but ultimately decided on these guys and sent them all my stuff, my medical records, and they thought, yeah, you not sure, but we think we could help. And so I gambled on it, and I went down there. And when I went, they said actually mine was so bad that it had deteriorated to the point so bad that if they had known how bad it was, they probably would have rejected me. But since I was there, let's roll the dice and go and do it. So I had stem cells injected into my cervical neck, and right into the disc. And there was immediate relief because people are not aware when they inject stem cells, there has to be a carrier fluid. So that fluid being injected in disc actually expanded and lifted them up. So just having pain relief and nerves, like I was able to move my hand a bit, that was pretty wild. Just that alone. But then as the months went by, I started getting feeling back, and I had started getting a lot of nerve pain, which was wild. I didn't know what was going on. Like my skin was so sensitive to underneath my nails and things, and it's because the nerves have been dead so long and they were coming back. The doctors here were floored. They thought I was wasting my money doing this, but when I went back and for follow-ups here, especially with nerve conduction tests and stuff, they were calling in other doctors to look at the test because they couldn't believe what they were seeing.
Is the stem cell treatment in Canada banned as well as in States and stuff?
Yeah, it's not banned. They're just so far behind. To put it into perspective, so you can get stem cells here, but what they do is they take your own. They will remove them from your bone marrow and spin them and stuff. But I didn't want 50-year-old stem cells, right?
Yeah.
So down there, they get them from umbilical cords,
Mhm.
and then they spin and create more from that. So that's why I went down there. Now, Canada has just recently, well, not about a year or so ago now, they were doing they got volunteers, and in testing now for umbilical stem cells as well. So they're doing it. They're just years and years behind. They just, they weren't doing it they just didn't have everything has to go through rigorous testing and stuff here. The great thing, I guess, for a place like Mexico is that, money talks and you can get by a lot quicker. So I actually ended up becoming friends with the owners at the hospital, and they're doing incredible things. I mean, it's a cancer research hospital down there. It's called CHIPSA, and this became a sidearm where they were helping athletes and stuff with the stem cells. And now they have a full lab, and there's things that they've told me that they're working on. I can't even say it. It's mind blowing. But I could tell you they're like regrowing tissue now, like organs and stuff. It's pretty phenomenal. So yeah, they're starting in Canada, but far behind.
Yeah, I'm really interested in your journey, and I was following with your short clips on Instagram
Mm.
and everywhere because I, similarly to you, on wrestling in 2000, tried to do backflip, and my coach said, "Don't do a backflip. You're not ready yet." Well, what do you know? Of course, I'm ready. So I landed on my head. For 7 years I couldn't lift my arms above my shoulders. But then guys from the kind of Chinese medicine, because I was going to physios and nothing wrong with you, no problem. And then few cracks from the like Japanese Yumeho guy helped me for a week, and I'm okay now, touch wood.
Mm.
But
Mm.
I sometimes, when I'm sit too long on the phone, I've got the pin and needles in my little
Yeah.
fingers. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking like, am I like Scott? Am I gonna go start raising money now? So it's very interesting for you that for me that I've got as well friend, one of my students. She had a growth on her neck, so they went in, removed it, and she's got a constant tension on her shoulders now.
Mm.
Because as you're digging in there, you're gonna touch something. So it's very interesting for me how exactly that worked for you, and do you recommend it? I suppose you do because you
Well,
doing BJJ now.
yeah, I've recommended it now to other people. As a matter of fact, I end up screwing myself up again after the neck was done. Um, and I started getting, and that's when I was around when I started training jujitsu. And then I started training there, and this has nothing to do with jujitsu. It just happened to be happening at the class. And I knew something wasn't feeling right in my back, and I went to get up, and my right leg just turned right over. Right foot turned over, went numb on the spot. So unlike my arm that would took months before it was deteriorating so slow that it's almost like watching hair grow. You're not even
Mhm.
aware of it until it's too late. This was just boom, instantaneous. My foot turned over and stuff, and I was rushed to hospital. And same thing, they wanted to do surgery and stuff here. So now I become friends with the guys at CPI, and so they found out that this had happened. They're like, "Dude, can you get on an airplane?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Come on down." So I went down and had my back done, lower back done, and yeah, it's been great. It's been fine. So it definitely works, and the MRIs don't lie. Testing doesn't lie. Like when you see growth of tissue, it's pretty wild. And now other folks that I've known too, it definitely does. Is it for everyone? No, definitely not. And it definitely depends on the type of injuries and what you have. Um, you know, um, like, yeah, like for example, I know somebody to your point was having the pins and needles in their hand, wrestler,
Mhm.
and they were getting numbness in their fingers, and you know, I could see what was going on. I knew there was something impinged there. So I was asking how much neck work do they do, and they're like, none. Like,
Mm.
what? So I got them into doing nerve flossing.
Mhm.
Are you familiar? If you're familiar with nerve flossing,
Yeah.
yeah. And then and this is something I use too for my rehab, and still to this day. I mean, I did it today. No joke. Iron neck.
Mhm.
Iron neck was a lifesaver. Sped things up so quickly for me. Um, Iron neck it was really cool, and I'm not getting any money or no props from Iron neck.
That's the machine where you put the thing on your head
Yeah, and you
with the
rotate
zip line, right?
yeah, exactly, and you rotate uh, your neck around.
Yeah.
The cool thing about it is it works under tension.
Mhm.
So Unlike if you do like, you have the old school thing where you put weights on a strap or whatever and do exercise with your head. It's different than that because it's working on isometrics. So it's time under tension. So as you move backwards, you're putting your neck under tension, and then you're moving in different areas. So it's keeping a constant pressure there up to like as long as you're standing there, like 30 seconds, a minute, whatever, and then rotating it. So you build this isometric strength, what I like to call farmer strength, in the deep sinews of the muscles, and you're freeing up a lot of the space there around there. And anyway, it's worked great for me and everybody I've recommended that thing to as well, especially folks who had that issue like you, or the pins and needles thing. Definitely has helped them, for sure, no doubt. I was going to actually do. I just been so busy lately. I want to do some videos too on just isometric stuff, and isometrics have been the number one thing to help me from my back. For every like I've been in the gym for, like I said, decades, doing conventional lifting, meaning everything from like powerlifting style to like a bodybuilder style repetitions by sets and things of that nature, and playing around with different, whether it's like, you know Bulgarian this or Russian splits and all kinds of different things, and things are great. But when I started doing, it's funny, this will date me, more the Bruce Lee style of like isometric, like against immovable objects. Holy crap. That increased my strength and resilience in my spine. Like, I can't even tell you. The strength that it gave me for grappling specifically, like people just think I just have old man strength, because I can like hold down a young person until they starve to death. But it's beyond that. It's just the isometrics, being able to like grab and hold different things, and it's against immovable objects, for not a long time, from 6 seconds up to 30 seconds. It's been incredible, absolutely incredible.
So did your neck recover fully, or you've got like 80% back, or how would you describe it?
Yeah, I would say mine was really bad. So everything I got back, I was lucky. So it's far beyond my expectations. I'm trying to think of how to put a percentage on it. Compare it to my left hand, I guess, my left arm. I would say it's about 90%. So very, very good. Even probably even higher, really. Um, like I had lost so much strength in my right arm. And like I said, a couple of the muscles weren't even firing anymore, so those came back. My From the nerve damage in my spine is a little fun fact about me. If you split my body directly down the middle, my entire right side, my right arm, my right leg is 1 inch smaller than the left side.
Mhm.
It's nobody really notices unless they're like looking. They go, oh shoot, yeah, you are, yeah, your left arm is bigger than your right arm, even though my right side is the dominant side, and that's from restriction of the nerves, just over damage to that. So that never, the size like will always be laps behind.
Mhm.
However, the motor function, pick up in the video, the motor function is just incredible now. I have full
Mhm.
mobility now, full grip. Like when I first started grappling more, like I couldn't grapple, like like I couldn't. I'd almost have to hook where I
Mhm.
couldn't. It was almost like a Machado with, with missing fingers, and I had to work my way around. But now, yeah, it's all kind of, and from doing from the stem cells, with regrowth of tissue, and then the isometrics. So yeah, if it stays the way it is right now, I'll be very happy. The
That was
only
my
Yeah,
question. Do you have to do them like re how to
no.
say it? You know. top it up
follow-ups and
or?
yeah, no, I mean, the only thing is like it doesn't, I started with disc degenerative disease. I'm going to die with disc degenerative disease,
Mm.
so it's going to continue, it'll degenerate again and continue to degenerate. um so that's just me particularly, like that's why it's great for folks who don't have things like that. Like there's so many people I know who have had tears and stuff, like whether it's a shoulder tear or a joint tear and stuff, because you get it fixed, stem cells, it's fixed, like that's it, you're done. um so my particular case, I'll probably, on an LC, see if my wallet can handle it, because it's not cheap. um but yeah, I'm hoping, I'm just, but I'm also hoping that all the other stuff now, the modalities that I've picked up and doing along, like the iron neck and these isometric stuff, will help prolong that, and the body kind of adjusts to it. So my biggest complaint now, and it's not a bad complaint because it means the nerves are working. I do get nerve pain down my arm, but it's not like, it's the opposite. Before it was like, things are going numb, and now
Mhm.
I'll get hypersensitive nerves. Well, sometimes even the skin will hurt, or the hair upon my arm, which is kind of weird. And but it kind of fluctuates. But yeah, weirdly for that, I'm into a lot of like biohacking things because I'm getting old and stuff. And there's certain things that I found. Like one thing was red light therapy. So I was doing
Yeah,
red light.
I started using as well. I'm
Oh,
using it. Yeah, it's
it's
nice.
great. Yeah, it's great. Like I did red light therapy on my arm, and it really calmed down the sensitive nerve issues that I was having. That was pretty remarkable, actually.
I'm into not eating sugar now, 4 day. I
Oh,
managed to
awesome.
do it for nine weeks previously, but the kids piss me off, and I had jar of Nutella instead of shouting at them. So
Yeah, sugar is a demon. It is a demon. I would say, like when people ask me, because like I'm pretty fit. Like I'm 54, and I have about 12% body fat. I'm in the gym. I work out 6 days a week. I'm doing something, and I do intermittent fasting. So
Mhm.
it's just because, and that's not even, it's just something I never like having breakfast anyway. So why am I
Yeah,
forcing myself to eat breakfast if I don't like it?
same here.
Yeah, like it's silly. So those things are all great, but when I cut out sugars and carbs and all that stuff, holy cow, the effect that it had on my body, not just like body fat and stuff, but inflammation. Like my issue was, so I would have so much issues with inflammation, and sugar is a demon for that. Sugar will age you, sugar will destroy your body with that inflammation and breakdown. Yeah, again, another rabbit hole I could go down a long time into, but it's the one thing, I don't like giving people advice on, because a diet that works for me, there's no guarantee it's going to work for
Yeah.
you. We're all different genetically. But one thing is pretty universal: cut that crap out. Get sugar
Mhm.
into your life, and you will do better.
I've been eating sugar since I was 10.
Yeah,
I'm fueled by sugar. I feel much better on sugar, but
of
since I
course we all do.
yeah, since I never could kick high kicks. My hips are not designed for it. But
Yep.
recently, you guys said in my club, "What have you done? You start kicking in the head." It just the inflammation went off, and it is up
Bingo.
everything. So
Bingo.
yeah,
Yeah.
motivation to do that. Then I was going to ask you, what would you say that the martial arts had? What impact on your mental health doing through all your struggles? Did you felt that it built your resilience, or maybe had no impact at all? It's just interesting to
No,
know.
100%. As a matter of fact, the martial way, and when I was doing my own podcast, it was one of the catalysts of me doing that, was just I wanted to find out people's journey in martial arts, not just inside the dojos and studios, but like
Mhm.
the impact that it would have on their lives. Because even for myself, I I don't even, I can't, it's hard to process and put into words the impact that it's had on my life, to get through so, just not just adversity of physical things, but life itself. As we all know, everyone's going through something, and everybody has a story. And, it's cliche, but it's true. We all have our struggles and things that we're dealing with, whether it's stresses of life and family or physical things or whatever the case may be. And without a doubt, martial arts and resilience of training and things, for sure contributes, and it's always playing in the back of my head. Like even when I like, yeah, when stuff happens like physically or injuries or things like that are plaguing me, it is that, it's cheesy as it is, that us that never give up kind of
Mm.
mentality. Really, it's there. And it really ingrained with good training and good discipline throughout. It's it's such a wealth of, yeah. I'm pausing and I'm looking off to the side because I'm thinking about, there was somebody I saw recently had posted something on Instagram, and it was a story, and it was something in regards to, they were kind of mocking, like the things that, like, do martial arts do anything for, personal life?
Mm.
And they were kind of, it was kind of a mean joke, just like, no, they just go there to learn how to whatever,
Mm.
wrestle, fight, do whatever the heck they do. And it really struck me, and it struck me even this person too. It surprised me that they put it there, because I was like, man, there's lots of different ways you could do that. You could go to the gym, you could go work out, there's lots of things to do, the physical aspect of it. And if you want self-defense, buy a gun. I don't know. There's different things you could do. They're a heck of a lot probably better. uh,
Mm.
but there is, and I find for people who have trained a long time, there's something that keeps you there far beyond the the art of self-defense, or the art of you're there for something inside you. It keeps pulling you back, and I think it's that continuous, again, that continuous battle, continuous struggle. It's always, a challenge there. And I really feel like if you can overcome that resilience of never giving up, and that training hard, and it battles within the dojo, anything outside of life is not that hard when you really
Mm.
think about it. They really aren't. Like, you can get through them if you still apply that same kind of mentality to it. So yeah, sorry, really long-winded answer to your question, because I had to think about it. But yeah, it's positively impacted every part of my life.
Excellent. Same for me. And I think that what you just said, that also and never give up, it spills up to everywhere. If you get that habit of overcoming things, that you just treat everything as a challenge. Oh, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And then in karate, if
Mm-hmm.
you look back, you see that the belts give you that indication how much you overcome, right? Because when we
Yeah.
started, we all shit.
Yeah, you just gave me goosebumps. Yeah, because I'm just thinking about it. Yes, 100%, 100%. And it never ends. This is
Mm,
why, even now, it's so cool being a beginner again in jujitsu. Um, I'm getting smashed constantly by kids and by, like, blue belts and purple belts and stuff. And it's so good for the brain. It's so humbling. And if you keep just grinding, you come back and stuff, man, that has such an impact outside in your everyday life. It really truly does. So that's another thing too. I think doing karate and all these things for years and years, it's so fun just to be a complete beginner again. Like, I love it.
mm.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
didn't even, I was also, I don't want any silly stripes on my white belt. I want, just leave me a white belt. Just let me train. It's just so fun.
yeah, that was funny as well. In a gym, I'm white belt as well, and I'm not planning to grade or anything. But
Yeah.
the other young belts, white belts coming in, and first question between them, oh, so how long do I have to work to have a black belt? Well, fucking long.
Yeah,
Just don't
exactly.
don't think about it. Just train. It will come.
Exactly. Exactly. I would say too, that's another, I love to know your opinion on this too. One thing I do like, and not all jujitsu, again, jujitsu now is changing just like every other martial art that goes through these transitions of becoming a sport and stuff. And
Mm,
so I see the changes there and too, unfortunately. But traditionally, though, there would be no gradings per se in jujitsu.
mm,
Like one day, your teacher would just be like, you know what, you're good enough. Here's your belt or whatever. I like that. Uh, I like that unknown, that kind of. you never know what's coming, and your teacher knows when you deserve it and stuff. Whether rather than the preparing for a
Mhm.
test and stuff. What's your thoughts around that?
I'm doing it for 5 years now. I give belts when I see the progression. So usually
Ah,
I do two
awesome.
months a year of assessment. If you put up work, you get belt higher. And for our black belts is I changed based on what's his name? Oh. BJJ guy. It is changed from examination to displays. Uh, God, what is his name? It's from Ken Fu. I will send you a link to them. Roy
Yeah.
Dean. Roy Dean.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um, he does instead of doing a examination, he does display,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
finding that great for my students. I had my first
That's cool. Yeah. I've seen the videos. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I had one of my students is 11 years training with us. He's autistic, so he just graded for his first done and
Oh,
changing from "Are you gonna have examination" to "Show us your best self" makes a huge difference.
that's cool.
Um, so
Actually,
yeah,
that's very
so
cool.
so 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 we doing a give out belts, which I get hell of a lot of backlash in karate. Because you need
Really,
to
eh?
earn it, you need to be graded. Well, I don't need to have somebody, if I'm grading somebody else, like you would come to me grading, you won't have a grade. I need to assess you, right? But then I'm
Yeah,
seeing my guys twice a week, 3 times a week.
exactly.
I don't need to check. But for our black belts, we have like external teachers coming. So all my friends from Jukado
Yeah,
Kempo, from different karate styles, from wrestlers sometimes, and I get their opinion. But my way of thinking is I'm not getting opinion on a student. I'm getting opinion on my teaching style. So if
that's awesome.
students lacking something, then that's the information for me what I need to improve. And I have to say, I nicked that from one of our German friends he used to do jiu-jitsu, and his daughter was grading, and unfortunately she was grading on Polish people, so nothing worked. But she got a provisional brown belt or black belt then. But her dad was the teacher, and he's a seventh dan. He said, "Please don't judge her bad. It's my teaching is wrong. We're going back to a drawing board. We're gonna test everything." Year later,
Mm.
whole equipment, full contact, testing everything. So, but you have to have a humility to just say, "It's my fault. We done it wrong.
Oh,
Start again."
you just nailed something else too. Humility. I would say the one thing I saw lacking, which is really kind of sad. I've seen in Kyokushin world, I've seen in other, is humility, and I get it. I actually get it. I see it not even just in martial arts, but I see it in other endeavors and education realms, um, where you've been practicing something for who knows how long, 20 years, 30 years. It's very hard to say, okay, maybe there's a better way, or
Mm,
maybe I got it wrong. Like, I find that quite interesting that some of the upper belts that or people who've been in it, like it's really hard for them to accept that they could be possibly, and I'll give you a really good example. Even and it happens. This is not just a slight on Kyokushin either; it's everywhere. Jiu-jitsu is a good example. That so when I started training, well, my current professor, current coach, shout out Professor Mike Mortez. So he does something called the ecological approach to training, ecological dynamics. So I have not learned one jujitsu technique. If you ask me right now how to perform, name some jujitsu technique, I might know it just from watching videos and just being around it so long that I know, and I know how to do maybe, but we don't learn that way. So everything is done what we call constraints led approach. So he
mhm,
will put me in a constraint. So I'll be okay. And it'll two players. So player one, you're on your back. Player two, you're on the side, and he won't even use too much terminology.
mhm,
Player two, you're on the side. Your objective is to get your knee over this guy's belly and get to basically a mount position, right?
mhm,
And then maybe get an arm up or whatever. The guy in the bottom, your objective is to don't let that happen. Get your arms maybe, and it'll very basic constraints, and that's it. Go. and with full resistance, complete 100% full resistance. Sometimes we'll downplay it a bit to 80% resistance, whatever. But everything's done resistance, so you're not necessarily drilling anything like non-resistant. Everything's done with full resistance, and you're learning. So you're adapting, and then afterwards he changes a little bit. Well, he'll just give you a tip like, well, I might do this in this situation, and you'll go, oh, okay. So now you can modify it a bit, but you learn so quickly, so darn quickly. And this has become a whole thing in jujitsu now. Folks that are doing this are learning very fast. They're learning rapidly. And me coming from neuroscience, it makes total sense because people, especially as children, we learn by play. That's how, and we learn, and it sticks that way too. The amygdala, it really helps stick it. Whereas repetition takes forever. So you have a whole split now in the jiu-jitsu community because now you have people doing this more ecological approach constraint, and there's folks that have been doing it the more traditional way where you teach a 6-step technique and then dry drill it and stuff, and it never works. It's so hard for them to accept that there could possibly be a better or quicker way to learn. And it's adorable. I like watching it happen. It's really adorable. It's watching the human ego crush. It's amazing.
I learned very similar thing with wrestlers. So in
Yeah,
wrestling,
wrestlers do this. Yes.
all the time. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I applied that to our kata. So when we do a kata, I always on the end do a free play with kata. So objective is find your favorite kata, apply it in under pressure. We're not doing striking, but like a grappling
Yeah.
match. And I quite often say, just close your eyes and feel the movement. Just play with
Yes.
it. No
Yeah.
ego. Doesn't matter if you win or lose. We just go constant flow. And it does, my white belts, I'm not saying they're great, but they can, do stand up, do a little bit of grappling and
It
I
becomes
don't
more
afraid.
intuitive.
Yeah.
It just becomes more intuitive, that way of learning. Oh, that's amazing to hear that you're doing that. That's incredible. Yeah, and it definitely is the influence of wrestling, because if you go to any, like even here, if you go to university level wrestling training, even high school, but the type of resistance training they're doing, it's so far beyond anything they do in martial arts or grappling and stuff. So, and it's starting to catch on there too. So
Yeah,
it'll
yeah.
happen.
I that's why I'm so happy that we've got a now fully matted gym because
Yeah.
one of the trainings in wrestlers I loved is all the acrobatics. You're spending nearly an hour of acrobatics and strength from the fucking unbelievable angles.
Yeah.
The wrestler just can pick you up in any angle he wants and doesn't even feel it.
Wrestling strength is unbelievable, man. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
But
Yeah,
going
that's
going back
yeah.
going
Go
back
ahead.
to your resistant training, I've got fucking resistant training on every single session on BJJ because I'm 5'7", 68 kilos, and most of the guys are like 90 kilos. So when they lay
Yeah,
on me,
yeah.
I'm already out of breath because I can't breathe. So it's like just survive, just survive.
Yeah, I totally get you. And again, like we talked about off the top, like for me, it's just being careful injuries and stuff. Like even uh, I'm even right now, like there's always something. My right elbow, I got popped in Americana about
Mhm.
4 weeks ago, and it was just an overzealous teenager who had the day before had won a tournament, or at least he medaled in a tournament. So the next day, open mat, of course he's very,
Mm.
and I was letting him work, and I didn't even have time to tap. Like he locked that thing on so quick, didn't have time, and everybody heard it was like a gunshot, like a pop across the, and sure enough, our elbow was out, and we had to pop it back in. And yeah, it takes it takes a while to heal now. I will say though, I mauled that little guy when I came back to but yeah, it's those are the things that scare me now, just because I wouldn't care so much if I was, in my 20s and 30s. But the injuries, like my groin, same thing, like I messed up my groin somehow. And it's just taking forever to heal. And it's all these little things, and then I'm just sore, getting in a bed trying to
Yeah,
yeah.
I wish I had that, tap quickly, tap early mentality 10 years ago. Because funny enough, with the same teacher by accident, now I go back to the teacher who I started 10 years ago. But within 6 months, actually, another Polish bloke, judo player, got very emotional and ego, and I didn't want to let go because I'm strong. And he over straightened my elbow, and I was massaging at the time. It took me 6 months to recover from that, and I thought, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. But times change.
Yeah.
I learned. I tap quickly. I don't have an ego now. I just want to survive there and have a good time.
Yeah.
So everything in the right time, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm all about tapping now. I will tap to anything. It's gone. That is gone. I don't care. I really, really don't. Like they're actually trying to bug me now to do a masters tournaments and stuff. And I'm like, I don't even know if I care about that. I really don't. I just do it to have fun and yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And explore my karate actually. It was the main one.
mm.
Yeah.
I actually went to the tournament in Masters last year, but
Oh
in
yeah.
kind of MMA format. So you could strike, you could throw, and 30 seconds on the floor.
Oh, that's awesome.
And actually, it was nice. Myself and my 63-year-old student went to finals.
Oh my
So we
God,
had
that's
a
amazing.
we had a super fun fight, and although I think I won because I said to the judges that if I don't win, he's walking back home because I was driving. So I did one, but we agreed that we go and have fun. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
who wins, just have a fun like in a club. And I think it was the best fight ever I had. And
Oh, that's
it was
great.
kind of funny. The judges was puzzled because we had a break between the rounds, and instead of going to opposite corners, we went to one and chat together. Like, we were like, "What the hell? What are you doing?" And when you're fighting with your friend and he does something, you throw me really nicely, and you're still flying and saying, "That's awesome, that's great." Like,
Yeah.
why are you congratulating your opponent? But yeah, it was great, great, great fun, to be
Actually,
honest.
you just the other thing. That's my biggest fear now. And again, you were asking me earlier on about that whole thoracic thing that happened to me when I was younger and how it sticks with me. My biggest fear to this day is wrestling.
Mm.
So stand up wrestling. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love grappling, stand up, but I'm terrified of a takedown going the wrong way.
Yeah.
I'm just terrified if somebody's going to get, especially some of these young guys, man, they come in, they're monsters. And they, again, they get so overzealous. And that's my fear. It is somebody's going to like smash me into the planet.
Mm.
And it's too bad because I love that aspect. To me, I'm not a big fan of guard pullers and all this scooting around on the butt stuff.
Mm.
Like it just, again, it's become the sport now. I like things starting like that more ADCC stand up
Yeah, yeah.
wrestling rules first. But I'll tell you a little quick antidote from it. I said earlier I was the youngest of seven. I'm the only of my siblings that doesn't swim. And the reason is when I was a little kid, I think I was around 4 years old. I was at the beach with my parents, and I got out of sight of them. And I was playing on the beach, and I was out in the water, and I slipped off the edge, and I went down,
Mm.
and I essentially drowned. And they had to somebody pulled me back in and resuscitated me and all that kind of stuff. That stuck with me that for life. Like, so I was never able to swim properly because panic mode as soon as my feet don't
Mm.
touch. And I wonder how similar that is to that the same thing with the whole
Throwing.
suplex going wrong.
Mm.
you know
Yeah,
it,
this is one of the areas I'm very arsy in my club, that we don't do throws till you don't learn properly landing and
yeah.
controlling. So we do a lot of I had the fortunate that my wrestling coach was very arsy about as well. You need to call your head when you're throwing. It's your responsibility that the partner lands safely. So I'm,
Yeah.
I'm really really anal about it.
Good. And actually, you just reminded me too. And that bad throw that went sideways, when that kid got me in the suplex, he actually got me around the arms. So my arms
All
were
right, so there's no
they were
yeah.
trapped in my body. So yeah, it was a nasty one. Anyway, whatever. But yeah, it's the only thing that really concerns me with grappling is this to stand up, and it's sucks because I love that part of it.
No, but can you not? So one thing which we're doing is learn from the kind of mental health aspect of it is the communication. So we've got the rule
Oh
that
yeah.
you need to communicate your injuries because people can't read mind, and we've got the like if somebody is too rough, you've got the right to say just I'm not doing it with you. And I think that's very common in BJJ, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to play with you. I'm worried about my safety. So
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. The one thing that's tough with me though is that most of my training I do privates
hmm
with my coach, and then I test it out at open mats. So I'll go
hmm
in the weekend, and there might be 20 people there I don't know. I've never
all
met
right,
before.
yeah.
And as much as you want to communicate, you really don't know who you're facing. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
somebody
yeah.
you're seeing all the time. Um, and the other thing is I do predominantly no gi.
hmm
Very rare I'll ever put a gi on. I have decades in a gi. I'm sick of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I love no gi, and so nobody knows your rank. Like
hmm
so that kind of plays into it too. And not to toot my horn, but like I picked up jujitsu relatively quickly, and especially with this constraint based approach. And so when people see me move and do things, they for some reason they think I'm a much higher belt than I actually am. And it's like, no, no, we need to calm things down here. You might think that I'm still an old guy who's a white belt, so I may be able to hold you on very hard, but you're still moving better than me, and I got to be careful of it. But yeah,
Well, you said to me the other day that you're planning to get back to the podcasting and doing stuff back. What's the
yeah.
plan?
Well, the plan, if I could pull the trigger on it, was to start doing. I wanted to change things up a little bit. A lot of the focus I was doing before was Kyokushin base,
hmm
and but I mean that community is very very small anyway, and I wanted to broaden it out to just talk not even just martial artists, but from people from all different aspects that are at least movement focused and stuff like that.
hmm
And going back to that earlier question that you had, just around, I'm really really curious about people's stories. Um, I remember many 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 years ago. Excuse me. I was with a friend. We were sitting in a bar, just having a beer together, having a pub, and we're just talking about life. Oh my god, this is a long time ago, actually, very very long time ago, maybe 20 years ago. Um, and he asked me, where it's one of these silly life things when you're talking with your friend. He's like, if you could do anything right now, what would it be? That kind of thing. And he asked me that, and I was remember I'll never forget it because I was sitting and we were at the bar, and I was like, you know what? If I could actually do anything right now, I would start at one end of this bar, this pub, and I would make my way right to the other and get everyone's story. Because I'm just intrigued. I'm really intrigued with folks' story, because I feel like everyone not only has a story, but everyone has an aspect to their life and story that can potentially inspire another person.
hmm
There's so many folks out there who are, potentially going through struggles or going through things, or and it can feel so alone. It could feel daunting or whatever the case may be. And then you hear someone else that's either sharing something in that journey or has been through it, and could offer light at the end of the tunnel stories. It can be quite powerful.
hmm
And so I wanted to do that, but again, mix it with martial arts, that martial journey. I mean, the whole thing started as the martial way, which is essentially, the journey of the way of a martial artist. So it's, yeah, just getting folks stories, kind of based very similar to what we've just done here today. But for whatever reason, and this goes back to, I'm a very open person, and try to be as much as I can and as authentic as I can. I can't pull the trigger on it. And I don't know why. There's something that seems to be holding me back from doing it again. Um, and I have a feeling, and again, being completely transparent, maybe this will inspire someone else, or someone else can inspire me. Um, so even at my work, so in my work, I'm my title sounds kooky, agile coach. I'm a specialist in a specific form process, and I do process and change for technology. Um, and I've gotten over the years pretty good at it, but now a lot of my aspect is around coaching others, and I do a lot of public speaking. So, and that's something that I hated. I hated. Was terrified of when I was younger. Even though I was a musician and stuff and could play in front of people, but I could never speak. But anyway, I got over it and got pretty good at it. Where I could fake it. It's the same thing for the podcasting. People think I'm really natural, like just even right now talking with you, that it feels comfortable and natural. But what people don't realize, I'm an introvert.
Mm.
I'm a severe introvert. And it takes me a lot to work myself up. So even to do those public speaking things at work, I dread them. I can't stand them. Even though once I get into them, they're fine, and I nail them and I knock them out of the park, and they're great. Same thing. I might get into a public speaking thing like this, even like a podcast and stuff. I'll work myself up and make dreading it, but once it happens, now I love it. It's great, and it's I love exploring people's stories and things like that. So that's my biggest. That's what I think. My personally, that's what I think is holding me back of pulling a trigger on it, because I hold so much anxiety around the buildup,
Mm.
that it holds me back.
I've got exactly the same. I've got exactly the same. And
See, there you go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But so that's how I end up in karate because I had a huge anxiety. I wouldn't go and buy groceries if my mom sent me. I always find a friend to go and do it
Yes.
for me. And then I went to karate and start teaching with my teacher, going for competition and that tunnel vision that when you're
Yeah.
competing, nothing exists, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I kind of developed that head-on collision, so that's why I'm doing a podcast because it's stressing me. So reaching to people like to you, I think I've been thinking about it for a long, long time to just reach out and that fear of rejection and judgment. And yeah, it's just that now I'm doing a project on my YouTube because nobody's watching, so I can do it. Um, so I'm doing 100 days every day, thought about karate every morning, and
Oh
I
shoot, that's
so,
amazing.
sometimes I just like I really don't want to do it, but no, fuck it. You promise yourself, go.
Oh, see, this is again, I just got goosebumps. This is amazing. This is what I'm talking about. Like in such a two-way road. I love this because that's what I want to. I love people's stories. So that's
Mm,
amazing. So yeah, so I would never have guessed that. I would not have guessed you had that type of anxiety. Never. You
mm.
seem so confident,
Thank you.
intimidatingly confident, actually.
Is it?
Um, oh yeah, but for sure. And then you got that thick Polish accent that makes it even stronger. Uh, so you seem super uber confident. It can be intimidating to folks. So I would know, and I bet you other folks would say the same thing. I would never have guessed that about you. I would never
Mm,
guess you had that type of anxiety. And but the fact that you're doing that project, that
mm,
self-inflicting project, is twofold incredible. I think twofold because I think it's amazing for you, and I think I'll bet you're gonna. I can't wait to hear the end of it. I hope you do something at the end of it to talk
mm.
about it, because I think you're going to receive a lot of growth in personal growth from that. But also on the other side of it, inspire someone like me. Like that's really super cool. That's amazing. Good for
Yeah,
you.
with that intimidation, I've got around here in UK, I'm famous for my Polish smile because that's it.
That's right. Yes, I know what you mean. That deadpan. Yes.
Every time when
Yeah.
I post a picture with my smile, somebody says, "So that's fake. That's AI. He doesn't do that."
That's awesome.
So, hey, thank you very much for your time. I'm really looking forward that you will be back because, like I said, and it wasn't just to
See,
to
fingers
please
crossed.
you. I really enjoy martial weight, martial weight. It is weight now.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
as well, I really enjoyed the hard talk with Terry. I'm actually gonna meet Terry for the first time in January for a Misogi training.
Oh, that's awesome. Say hi
So
for me. I love
yeah,
Terry. Terry's just awesome. Terry's one of the most authentic people I've ever met in martial arts.
yeah,
What you see is what you get. and I love that guy. I had a special place in my heart for him. I really, really adore him. I can't thank you enough for this. Again, I think sometimes I feel like there's no coincidences in life, and my partner, she's been really pushing me to go back to doing podcasting and stuff, and can't pull the trigger on it and stuff. And then when you reached out, and I mentioned it to her, she was so happy. She was like, "Oh, this is amazing! This will give you a nice little, and she was right. So even though I was dreading today in a good way, I mean, the whole anxiety thing about it, it was awesome. This is such a you're very authentic at this and very natural. So awesome to you. I definitely need to check out more of your content now for sure, and I'll be checking out your project.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Is the martial weight still applicable? Should I share what do you want me to share about you?
Yeah, no. Most of my stuff is Instagram for my personal stuff, and that's _ the martial way. Somebody messed up the martial way, so I couldn't get that. So I had to put the silly underscore.
Oh yeah, you had a big problem with it, didn't it?
I had,
hijacked or something.
Yeah, I got hijacked. It was bad. So yeah, _ the martial way at Instagram, YouTube, the martial way. Yeah, the Facebook page is there, but I don't do too much with it now. But eventually maybe things will change when things get going. But yeah, and if anybody ever has any questions, comments, anything for me, go for it, including about the stem cells or anything else.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely you guys must watch Scott's journey because it's super interesting. And I really liked your on the beginning the daily kind of upgrades and not upgrades, updates on your progression, and it's really interesting stuff.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
So, thank you very much.
All right. Bye for now. Oos!
Well done for listening to all of it. You are a superhero. Thank you very much for your support. And if you could leave us that review on a podcast platform, that would be amazing. I appreciate your time, appreciate your support, and I wish you all the best until the next one.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.